This is a great city. It ranks right up there with all the other East Coast cities we'll be visiting. You've got Filene's department store on one corner, you've got Macy's on the other corner. It's similar to San Francisco in size and in feeling. While in Boston, we stay at the Parker House Hotel, which is right in the heart of downtown. It's the oldest continuously occupied hotel in America, and it's just recently been refurbished, so it's looking good, right near Downtown Crossing. Now let me take you on a walking tour.
We'll take a little walk down this way in towards the financial area. You see some of the modern skyscrapers and some of the old-fashioned skyscrapers as well. And that's just going to take us about 8 blocks. We'll go a few blocks over, we'll take a left, we'll take a right, we'll wander around a little bit. And we have an appointment at 10 a.m. at the National Parks Office.
The most famous Boston department store is Filene's, especially the basement.
So this afternoon, I see that shoppers are drooling already. They get merchandise in from all the other stores of town. So it's a remainder shop, discounter shop. And it's all based on the number of days that the item has been on the tables down there. So the price gets cheaper and cheaper the longer it sits on a table. And it's wild down there. The clothes are just strewn in piles. There's not much organization. It's a big mess. But it's a great institution and it's a lot of fun. Okay, so let's walk down a few blocks here. We're going to continue around here to the Post Office Park. It's just a few blocks ahead. In the heart of the financial district, you can find big modern skyscrapers.
Boston has been enjoying an economic boom in the last decade. There's a lot of financial institutions headquartered as well as high-tech here. It's a thriving city.
Post Office Square, what a nice spot, right in the heart of downtown Boston. A fountain, benches, flower gardens, big buildings all around you. So isn't this a great park? Perfect grass. There's a little cafe over there. You can have a snack or have lunch. And downstairs it's a parking garage, big underground parking. So they're really making use of the space. Right, Honolulu could learn from this kind of a park. It's a beautiful vest pocket park. A breathing spot. This is the old Customs Tower, and that used to be the highest building in Boston. So that was a champion skyscraper. And what a beautiful building. Look, it's got those classical columns at the foundation. See, it looks like an ancient Greek temple at the bottom. And that goes around all 4 sides of the base. And then the tower rises up out of that classical foundation. And even at the top, you have some classical columns.
We had a great opportunity now to learn a lot about the history of Boston with a walking tour with the National Park Service Ranger. Starting here from the old State House.
Remember, Boston's under this military occupation, so there are soldiers all over the place here. So back then, Boston was a peninsula. The idea of independence wasn't really forming yet. Then Great Britain places another tax on the colonists called the Townshend duties. And the Townshend duties placed taxes on products that were imported from Great Britain.
And I think you all know what governments do when they're out of money. They passed the Sugar Act. It was a revival of the old Revenue Acts. Didn't raise any new tax money, but it gave the Royal Navy and the customs officials more authority to collect the duties due on sugarcane, sugar products. We had always governed ourselves, and we always meant to.
Now, Paul Revere's Midnight Ride was made on April 18th, 1775. It was the night before what we now remember as the first battle of the American Revolution on April 19th at Lexington and Concord. Listen, my children, and you shall hear the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. And then I know, what if by land, two if by sea, I and the opposite shore will be. In the poem, it says that Revere, that's the other line I remember, is going to ride out to every Middlesex County village and farm to warn everybody. No, he couldn't do that. It's too much. So his mission that night was really only to ride to the town of Lexington on the road to Concord and warn 2 men, Adams and Hancock. You know, they're like yin and yang here. It's a dangerous mission. Revere could be captured, he could have an accident. He needs to know where the British troops will be. So he's going to watch for the signal lanterns in the steeple of Old North Church. And there'll be 1 if by land, 2 if by sea. He never yells, "The British are coming." Now that is disappointing. I want to thank you all very much for coming. You've been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. You're very welcome. Oh, thank you. I'm glad.
We followed up on this history of Paul Revere with a trip out to the suburbs to see where the battles actually took place out at Lexington and Concord. It's just about 30-40 minutes outside of Boston, and here it is, the green at Lexington, where the first skirmish took place.
The British fired upon the men lined up here and charged, and 9 were killed at this spot.
It was April 18th, 1775, and the British troops had marched from Boston to arrest the Patriot leaders Samuel Adams and John Hancock. Not finding them here, the British Army marched a few miles on to Concord, where they had a skirmish with 400 American militiamen. 3 British and 2 Americans died here.
When they got down to this point, they were killed by British fire. See, these weren't trained soldiers.
So even though this was a relatively small fight, it has tremendous historical significance, for it was the first time the Americans beat the British in one of the Revolutionary War battles, and thus called the shot heard round the world, for it really was the beginning in earnest of the War for Independence. The fall colors are in full bloom, as you can see. We're traveling during the month of October, a great time to visit New England. And we've arrived at Concord Bridge. This is where the shot heard round the world was fired, according to Emerson, who wrote the poem. It's a tranquil scene today, but this is where the rebels killed their first British soldier, starting the war. There's ducks in the Concord River, and there's also ducks in the Charles River. We're on a duck right now. This is the Duck Tours of Boston. It's an amphibious fighting vehicle from World War II that takes you through the streets and waters of Boston on a great tour.
Bob, let's go right through there if you want. My friends, one of the prettiest views that you're going to enjoy is this view when you come through this bridge. The view of the Back Bay.
Isn't that a great view? It's the best view of Boston, and you can only get it from the water.
All right, thank you, Bob. He's Tom Selleck's neighbor over in Hawaii. There you go, huh?
Our guide was a real character. Of course, you had to be there to get the full gist of it, but here's some more little glimpses of the trip.
Look at this building. But look at my friends. You're going to see about 25 pretty people right here over to your left, huh? Oh.
The oldest college in America is Harvard. It was founded in 1636, and many of the beautiful buildings in Harvard Yard date back to the colonial days. The university library is the largest library on any college campus in the world. You get the feeling of a village green here as we stroll around the campus of Harvard. And today, of course, it's America's greatest institution of higher education. The most historic and the most expensive residential neighborhood in the city is Beacon Hill, especially here at Lewisburg Square, right in the heart of Beacon Hill. It's a fine example of urban planning, and it goes back several hundred years. I suggest you take a little walk here late in the afternoon when the golden colors bounce off the beautiful brick walls, and find your way to Acorn Street. Look at this little tiny, narrow, cobbled alleyway. So historic, in the midst of a great modern city, a city on the move. And we're on the move now as well. We're going on to our next city on the tour. Too many other sights to show you in Boston in this brief summary, so we're leaving town now, and we'll continue on down to New York, and then to Philadelphia, and eventually Washington, D.C.